Good evening and thank you so much for joining us for Prime News 25 at 10. So when officials in Montgomery County dismantled the school resource officer program right before the start of the current year, perhaps the last thing that was on their mind was that just months later, a gun would make its way into a high school, sending a 10th grader to the hospital with critical injuries.
Yeah, this means tonight after the Magruder High School shooting, elected officials are facing tough questions. Perhaps the most pressing among them is whether or not school resource officers should make a comeback. Right now, there is a petition going around with almost 5,000 signatures in support of the argument that removing the officers in the first place was simply a big mistake. It has been 5 days since that shooting, and we begin with Cheyenne Corinne, who has late-breaking details.
Some of these things that are happening are very different than the mass school shootings that originated the idea that you needed to have police at the schools.
After 19 years, this was the first year the school resource officers program was removed at MCPS. This also is the first time a student was shot on school grounds. But County Executive Mark Elridge says that he's not sure if SRO's presence would have made a difference in this situation.
They're not personal bodyguards, and it's kind of hard to keep track of when people decide they're going to go into a bathroom and have whatever transpire. So there's no panacea that says if only there had been an SRO there, there's no way this would have happened, because I don't think anybody can say that.
Instead of school resource officers, the county introduced community engagement officers that are not in the buildings and respond as needed. On the day of the Magruder High School shooting, the first law enforcement officer to arrive on scene was the sheriff's deputy, who was assigned as Magruder's community engagement officer. Chief Jones says he has no plans to restore the previous program, but he will look at modifications to the current program, especially at high schools.
Not necessarily require that an SRO be in a school, but therefore that there is adequate law enforcement coverage. So that's how we address the adequate law enforcement coverage, by having the CEOs assigned to each of the school clusters.
Reporting in Montgomery County, Maryland, I'm Cheyenne Corinne for WDVM 25.
Cheyenne, thank you. So the interim superintendent of Montgomery County Schools says that they will be reviewing safety and security measures over the next couple of months. Now, by law, the school system has to submit a report to the Maryland Center for School Safety for an evaluation.